In this video, we're going to discuss how to set up standard workflows for tasks, deliverables, contracts, or in the company. The process is exactly the same, you'll just have to select a different type. Now, I'll explain to you the reason why we would do that, when you would set up a standard workflow, and how it's used. Now, when it comes down to the e-signature part, which is in documents, this is where we send a document for signature. We have multiple people, they can sign it in order. In this case, a contract could be worked on, right? For example, before you even send a contract to somebody, it might has to go through a pre-approval. Multiple people have to look at it, and maybe certain things have to be done for the customer. So actual process, right? And it could be not only for contracts, this is why we have tasks, deliverables, and even for the company itself, right? So the world is your oyster in this case, and you can customize the process however you would like to. Now, by default, Zapendo has 4 item types: company, contract, deliverable, and task. You can set up a standard workflow for each one of them. In order to do that, go to the contract manager setup on the left, and then select one of the item types that you have. So for example, let's do this for a contract. So here you will see the name, the item group. You can actually group them up, but we're not going to go over that in this video. We're simply going to cover in this video the standard workflow. Now you might be wondering, why would we create that, and how we're going to use this in the future, and what should you put in here? So every time you will start a standard workflow inside a contract, and I'll show you that later, these steps, whether they're approval, completion, whatever they are, they will be activated, right? And so, for example, the ability that we have right now is that I can delete all of this because this was previously here. But if I was to start from scratch, I would give this step a name, and it's optional, you don't have to. But let's say this is HR approval, right? It could be a task. In my case, it's approval. And then you can pick a specific user inside the system, right? And this user will be notified that now they have to do something in there. And this is the button text. So when they receive a notification that there is something pending for them to be done, right? In order for them to complete it, this is the button name that you can give. In my case, it's approval, so approve makes total sense. We'll save that, and you can have 3, 5 steps, right? And it's totally up to you. So I'll hit save just with 1 step. And we can create another workflow, or we can start this existing workflow. In my case, I'll start this current one. Perfect. And then you can click publish. And then say yes, publish again. Perfect. So now if we go back to the basics in the contract manager itself, and we'll go back to the contract, you will see that now if we go to the workflow, our workflow was sent, it's HR approval, and the reviewer is this user. Now, in the config, you can actually modify the notifications that happen with each step. So let's say we had 3 or 4 different steps, right? But the contract in itself can have different phases. It can be pending, open, or closed, right? That's usually the standard. So in this case, we can go to the contract and edit it. And here let's click on the workflow steps configuration. And here we can click on the workflow step configuration, and we can add basic notifications if you would like to. What this does is that when you create a new contract or a task or company deliverable, by default the status is open, right? So you just created it and the status is open. And if you pass it through a workflow, right, once the workflow starts, the status changes to pending, and once the workflow is completed, it'll change to closed, right? These are our 3 different steps here. It can be 2 steps, totally up to you. So in order to edit it, simply click on edit, or you can actually go to advanced notifications in the same tab. So let's say we want to create some notifications for when the workflow starts. Now, in order to do that, all we have to do is to click on the status, so the first one. Then you can select pending or closed. And for us, it's open. And the step, remember we only had one step, but if you have 3 different steps, for step number 1, so when it goes to a specific individual, we want to start workflow email message, right? And this literally just sends an email to a specific individual who's assigned to that step with this message. And the message can be very long, very short, totally up to you. And this is the email subject that the person will receive. Now you can also go to advanced notifications, and this is where you can set up periodic reminders or change the email of the person to whom these reminders will be going to. You can select a group inbox and how often these reminders will be going to this person after they receive this task, right? To look at the contract, approve it, complete a task, whatever that might be. So simply here, you can select how often and how long after the task is assigned do you want to send reminders. So 5 hours after you created the task, if it's still not done, send a reminder. And then how often do you want to repeat the reminders, right? And so after that, keep repeating it every 3 hours or 3 hours and 30 minutes, right? Totally up to you. And this is where you could create that. And after you do that, so let's create it. You'll simply have to publish it. So click next here at the bottom left. Then you'll click on sorry, I just had to scroll up a bit. And then you'll just click on publish on the top right and then say yes, publish again. Perfect. And this is how you would set up a standard workflow for a specific item type. Now you only have to do this once. You don't have to do this over and over again. It's only once for that specific item type that you can set it up, and then it will be used every time you create a new contract, right? This is where you can reuse that standard workflow over and over again. So this is going to be test for standard workflow. So if we now create a new contract, we can start this standard workflow, and it's going to go through the current steps here on the right that I mentioned. And this is how you set it up. And let us know if you have any questions or like this tutorial.